This is my second foray into YouTube. What I wanted to talk about in this video was answer some of the most common questions that I get. So first, what does Portavoce mean? It's an Italian translation of good speaker, and I think that is what people are looking for in today's climate. People want to overcome a fear of public speaking, or perhaps they're more introvert and they need somebody to help give them the confidence and the tips of the trade, so to speak, to be able to work around their introverted nature as well. That when I set up the company and set up this journey about improving and trying to work with people who wanted to improve their public speaking, the idea was that Portavoce would be the kind of mindset the clients that I work with and the people that I help have, that mindset of being progressive in outlook and wanting to impress and wanting to give back, and I think that is the Portavoce mindset that I'm looking to address. One of the biggest questions that I'm asked is, Rowan, I've got this big PowerPoint presentation coming up, and simply I just get so nervous that literally I write my presentation out and I'm just reading off of the bullet points. So I've got two responses. I have my personal response, which is, yes, this is the most horrendous way to give a PowerPoint presentation. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have sat in meetings where somebody has come in and literally just read word for word what their presentation says. That's a waste of your time and it's a waste of their time. But I think that the positive thing is to notice or to acknowledge that if it's because you're nervous, if it's because you need to work on your confidence, these are all things that you can definitely do. If it's because you don't know your subject material well enough, that's a completely different situation. Addressing what the problem is and where the problem is, and working with somebody who is extroverted or has the ability to coach you through being a better public speaker, you can make a lot of impact, both on confidence, your delivery. You can go from somebody who is looking at their feet, shuffling around and uncomfortable and visibly uncomfortable, to going and presenting as if you've been doing it all your life. My advice would be, write the presentation that you want to write the bullet points that you have to write it, learn that presentation, but before you give it, take all the details out. Just put the headlines in, put a picture in, because what you need to be doing is focusing your audience's attention on you. Too often have I gone into a presentation and everything that I'm going to be told is literally, it's on the screen and I skip ahead. I read, and if I see the lines of information that I know of, then I don't really need to listen to the rest of it. And this is where presentations are important. It's about adding the value. What are you telling your audience that they didn't know already? So I think it's really important, but it's also so easy to deal with, and I wish for two things. I wish for those people who do give excellent presentations, that you take the time to identify that, not only for them, because I think it's always nice to get good feedback, and it's always nice to know that you've made an impact. I know that when I've given speeches in the past, I get well, for example, when I was elected deputy mayor of my local town in Stafford, the demographic profile of people who would accept this privileged office generally would be people who were retirees, and generally that is the case, although there are exceptions. Generally, they're retirees, or they're people who are coming close to retirement age, because otherwise they're not going to have the kind of supportive employer that's going to let them have the amount of time that you would need to contribute to being a first or a second citizen of a town, a city, or a metropolitan borough. So when I accepted the nomination for being deputy mayor of Stafford Borough, because of my performing background and my experience of speaking in public for over 20 years, I was able to memorise my speech and deliver without notes. And the number of comments that came from, and there's not to say that there wasn't praise from political opponents, but the majority of praise came from the civic onlookers. So they would come in, and they might be a high sheriff or somebody from one of the major key stakeholders of the council, and they've never seen our council in action. They've never seen me before, but then they come to a meeting and they see this young 30-something community politician who stands up and just delivers it out of the ballpark in their minds. And it is possible, you don't have to have 10 years plus experience, listening to the people who've been there and done it. We will be able to give you the advice, to give you some really good strategies to be able to deal with your nerves and delivery. So that's my answer to that question. If you have any further questions, please just put a comment below. And if you have tips and strategies, then please, contribute them as well. One other question that I've received because of my performing background recently on Twitter was about what my favourite production to be involved with was. Now, I'm going to take it back. What am I now? So when I was about 16, 17, I was studying at college. I'd just left high school, and I was doing performing arts at Stafford College. And our first formal scripted production was the trilogy by Sophocles of Oedipus. So you've got Oedipus at Colonus, you've got Oedipus Rex, or Oedipus the King, and Antigone. So this whole story maps Oedipus's journey as a child that's given away, that by his biological mother and father, he is adopted by a nearby king and queen. He grows up as a prince, and basically he goes out on his own, and I forget. The reason why he was given up is because somebody, a seer or a prophet, told him that their son was going to murder them, basically. And so effectively Oedipus at Colonus is and Oedipus Rex is about the journey of that story coming true, basically. And Antigone is the answer to the question. That is my favourite production to have been involved with, simply because it was my first leading role as an actor, and as I say, I was 16, 17. There were a lot of talented performers that were on my course, and you know, in my audition, you know, I obviously convinced the lecturers who were casting, knocked it out of the ballpark, and you know, and they casted me to this leading role. And so the reasons why, the story is great. You know, they've just come out of a war, and Creon, the character I played, is trying to establish his authority as a new ruler, but he also has this family conflict, because the people who've just been at war are family relations. So by celebrating one of the brothers who fought for him, and disrespecting and leaving the body to become carrion, basically, he sets himself into effectively a battle between the sister of so the characters were called Polynices and Eteocles, and I don't think I've said those names since I last did the production. So the brothers fought. One was honoured, one wasn't, and Antigone, the sister of both, tries to defend the moral and ethical rights of society and her brother by having him buried. And effectively, it's a big fight and tragedy, as the Greeks loved to write about. That's the story aspect of it. But the reason why I love that production and have fond memories, one, I got to work with, as I say, a lot of good people. One of the people that I got to work with was one of my... Basically, I'm very fond of this person, and always have been. We grew up together through youth theatre, and I've got a lot of time for this person, and Danielle was the person who played Antigone. Having somebody that you know and that you're comfortable with, and you know, it was just, it helped the experience, and that's not to say that if it had anybody else been cast, that I wouldn't have had fond memories of working with them. But I think for me it was just an added bonus to be working with somebody that I'd known for like 4 or 5 years, and that I felt I got on with, and still I'm quite fond of. But as well, it also taught me a lot about leadership, in the sense of I was, you know, basically a role model for the rest of the cast. Not because that's what I chose, because you know, effectively I took my role seriously, and I remember being in rehearsals, and the creative team were basically like, well, you know, come on guys, you know, look at your lead who has got, you know, blocks and blocks and blocks of monologue text, and it's hard and it takes time, and if they can get a page or 2 pages down in, you know, in whatever time frame it was, and you've got, you know, half a paragraph as part of a chorus, come on, you need to pick it up. So that was one of my favourite shows to be involved with, because of the story, because of the experiences with the cast, and what it taught me about myself, and about leadership. And if you have any questions that you want to be answered in my next Ask Portavoce Coach, drop a comment below, or find me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Portavoce Coach, and I will do my best to answer when I get your question. Thank you for your time. I hope that you've enjoyed what I've had to say, and that you can take something from what I've said.